Manley is the book that every beekeeper should have. My uncle gave me a beehive.
Right.
And of course, when you're 10 or 11 and you don't have a lot of pocket money,
Yeah.
at the end of the year, you haven't sold any honey.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a strain.
Right.
And it was only when I discovered that you could sell honey
Yeah.
that I began to expand. And so I went from, 4 or 5 hives, and then my uncle died, and I think I inherited 20 from him. And so I suddenly was up to about 70 hives. And now I suppose we've probably got more bee books than anybody else in Yorkshire, I would think.
Probably the western spiral arm of the universe. But
I
that's
don't know about that.
Well, so when did you first come across the name Manley?
When I was in Cheltenham, I bought a Manley. I bought 2 books which have stuck with me, really.
Yeah.
One was Wedmore.
Yeah.
And Wedmore is the sort of book that, even although it's dated, it gives you so many answers to any questions. And the other one was Manley. And when we started selling books, eventually we got into publishing.
Yeah.
And I approached Faber to see whether they would give me rights to publish Manley.
Okay.
And Manley is an amazing book. He was one of 4 large-scale beekeepers before and during the war. Maddock was a little earlier. He was in Norfolk, and he kept 1,000 or so hives. Yeah. Very little has been written about Maddock, but he was a very good beekeeper. And the other beekeepers at that time, of course, were Brother Adam, who was very famous in the 30s. There was also Gale of Marlborough, who was friendly with Brother Adam. Gale ran at one time something up to 2,000 hives.
Right.
But he was friendly with Brother Adam, and also with Manley. And I think Manley's book, or books, are some of the great reads of English beekeeping.
Right.
I know they're 60, 70, 80 years old, but probably more. I can't think about it. But he Manley occasionally was seen as being awkward. He was brusque. Like Gale, he suffered from hearing problems.
Right.
But he published his first book, which was Honey Production in the British Isles.
Yeah.
Personally, not through a publisher. I've just turned up a letter today where he said that it was sold for 7 and 6pence.
Okay.
And that's his first edition.
Right. Okay.
And it was so popular that it rapidly sold out. And of course, because of the wartime, there was restrictions on paper usage and things. And it was only after the war that Faber managed, I think it was in 46, managed to produce his honey production in the British Isles.
Yeah.
And then I think perhaps Faber first did honey farming.
Yeah.
And then they redid the honey production in the British Isles. But this really, his honey farming, this is the edition that Northern Bee Books did.
Yeah.
But it's a great book. It's full of a lot of information. Some of it's dated, of course, under Varroa and certain diseases. But it's a very, very, very good read. I think it's a better read than Brother Adam because it's so easy to read. Brother Adam can be a bit complicated at times.
Right. Because I was thinking, when you're looking at the new book by Steve and Paul, they reference Manley as a kind of beekeeping hero. There's a relevance to bee farmers today.
Yeah.
What's the key things that makes him relevant?
He describes the basics properly.
Right. Okay.
And so, obviously, in his time, you didn't have the internet of information, and you had a lorry which you crammed the stuff in, take the hives around. But, things are different now.
Yeah.
But for the basics, after all, what is it about commercial or larger scale beekeeping?
Yeah.
You've got some bees in boxes,
Yeah.
and you move them around
Yeah.
to where you can get the best crop
Yeah.
from. But no, I think probably Manley and Donahue and Paul Horton, they're covering the same area.
Yeah.
It's just that they brought it up to date. I mean, with Paul Horton, he takes his hives around the country.
Yeah.
Commercial beekeeping is not an easy job.
Yeah.
It's like farming. You are dependent upon the weather, you're dependent upon economic conditions,
strength of your stocks, and
you're expendent upon your physical strength. Although nowadays, of course, the bigger bee farmers are using loaders on the top of lorries to load things, but it's a damned hard job being a commercial beekeeper.
Yes.
Different. Manley was talking about how you maximize your honey crop, how you control swarming, how you queen bread. It's and it reads so well.
Yeah.
You know, it's but it's not. It's 70. No, how many years? 50, 70 years out of date. But still, every beekeeper should have a Manley. They should have a Wedmore.
Okay.
And perhaps they should have a Donahue and Horton. Perhaps.
Yes.
I don't know.
The Manley frame, have you ever used any of those?
I have. They're the ones with the straight sides.
Right.
My son uses Manley frames because he finds that the crop is better.
Everyone should have a Manley in their book collection. Which one would it be? The honey farming?
I would say honey farming. Honey production, he was just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was more inclusive of all the various aspects of beekeeping, honey farming. And then he finally, his last book was Beekeeping in Britain. And that was 3 or 4 years later. And I think they are all repetitive, but the honey farming is the one you want to buy.
Right, okay.
Honey farming is the one you could buy. Either you could buy a second-hand copy, which will cost you about 15 quid, or I think you can buy a facsimile copy, which is from your bookshop or from us, which is not quite as nice. If you can get an original, you want to.
Why would you want to get an original? Because you've got a bit of history soaked into that pages, I mean?
I rather like hardback books, but of course, when you're producing books, as soon as you go into hardback, you're talking about 30% more.
Right.
And cost is an important factor in selling. Manley is the book that every beekeeper should have.
Right.
Purely because it's a good read.
Yeah.
He talks about his beginning of beekeeping. He talks about all the various aspects of it. And well, it's just a very, very, very good book.